Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. It is Wednesday, so it's time for another What Am I Working On Wednesday? And I didn't post last week because the world has been going nuts, and so it didn't seem like a good time. I still don't know that it's a good time for me to ramble on about my little writing projects in comparison to everything that's been going on in the world. This is very, very small, but I'm going to press on and talk about what I've been working on. I do want to say that sometime last week I went to my very first protest. I believe that Black Lives Matter. I know a lot of people say all lives matter. I completely agree with that, but I think that many people are marginalized in this country and in other countries, and I don't want that to continue to happen. I'm anti-racist, and I know a lot of you, if you have argued with friends saying all lives matter, I have a feeling that you are also anti-racist, and that you don't realize that the phrase all lives matter is kind of a smack in the face when it's used in a debate like that. I feel like I'm not great at adding to this kind of conversation, I guess, but I did want to put that out there. Just so you guys know, if you're following my channel and you want to know what side I'm on, I'm doing my best to be anti-racist, and there you go. So, doing our best to press onwards. What have I been working on? Well, I found out about a writing program through Disney, and I think that they extended the deadline to June 12th, maybe. So if you have, basically they are looking for 2 original pilots. And so the last couple weeks I decided, you know what, I'm gonna try to do that. So I was working on 2 pilots. One was adapted from an old play that I had written, a 1-act that I thought had potential for a series, and then one was a new idea that I had been tinkering around with. So that was a great deal of fun to send it off. I am certain that thousands of people far more talented and more qualified than I will be submitting their work. I think typically what the Disney program is looking for is people that are people that I think that will be ideal candidates are people that already have maybe some writing credits in the screenwriting or teleplay world, or they've worked as a writer assistant, or they've already got connection to a writer's room. And I myself have never worked in a writer's room. It sounds fascinating. I'd love to do it, but it's a very new and different world. The world of writing children's books is, for the most part, just sitting around my office and trying to think of ideas and maybe walking the dogs and coming up with ideas. So it's very solitary. Yes, so I will let you know when and if I get any notifications. I think that they are making their first round of choices in November. So it's going to be a long time before I hear if I make it to the next level. Fingers crossed, but expectations very low. What else have I been working on? Well, there's that fantasy novel I keep talking to you about, and my agent and I have we finished draft, as I announced a couple weeks ago, and my agent is going over, in theory, one more time, fine-tuning, really kind of giving me notes about the beginning so that the first couple of chapters are very strong. It's easy for an editor to look at a couple pages and say like, I'm not hooked yet, so then they might not keep reading. So I want to make sure that I hook the reader and really draw them in with just the first chapter does that. So that's one of the main things that I'm working on, is a revision for that. We have plans to send the book out there at the end of this month. So by the end of June, the fantasy novel should go out to the editors. I think I've said that before. It's like, it should be going out very, very soon. So you never know what will happen. But in theory, we're going to be done with this. I think this makes it draft number 4. while I've been tinkering on the fantasy novel, I've also been trying my best to come up with new ideas. What I'm worried about that will happen is that I will send my fantasy novel out into the world, and then maybe a dozen editors will look at it and they will all reject it. That is a very distinct possibility. I'm really passionate about the book. I think it's great. I think it's actually the best thing that I've written, but that does not mean that editors are going to look at it and say, like, yes, we want to publish this. This is going to be awesome. Yes, here's the contract. That might happen, but it might not happen. And if it doesn't happen, I've been sort of grappling with the idea of what I would do next, because I really want to keep making books like this fantasy novel, but if it's rejected, do I want to keep making books like this novel? So I'm kind of in a wait and see mode, but I'm trying to be braver than that. So part of me feels like, well, don't do any big projects until you find out what happens with the novel when it gets submitted. And then another part of me is saying, like, you know what? You're going to want to write books anyway. Even if you're rejected, you're still going to want to write books. Maybe you'll self-publish the book. Maybe the next one will be a bestseller. Don't give up, wait on writing novels. So start thinking of your next big idea. So yeah, I've been bouncing around different big ideas, different novels, and right now I have 3 of them in mind. One is science fiction adventure, one is another fantasy adventure, and another one is actually a book that I started about 10 years ago. I got 5 chapters in. Usually with me, if I get past the 5th chapter into chapter 6, then I finish the book. But I have a lot of books that I get to chapter 2, 3, or 4, and then I decide, no, it's not working, and I stop working on it. So this one, which is currently called The Tales of Shakespeare, and it's about an 8-year-old William Shakespeare who turns into a mouse. There you go. There's the log line, and all the cats and the rats and the mice that he meets along the way. So that is at chapter 5, and I dusted it off and I looked at it and I thought, you know, it's still, I think, a pretty cute, interesting children's book. Kind of on the younger side of things, so maybe it will be 200 pages. And I'm on page 27, so I've been tinkering with that. So I've written one page, one brand new page after 10 years of sitting in the proverbial drawer. The other thing that I've been working on, Christopher Flowers, my writing partner of a play called Sugar and Spies, he finished yet another draft, so we have a working draft of that play. It's a wacky comedy for Big Sandwich Theater, and we are ready to do a read-through. So next week, we are going to do a read-through. We're doing it on Zoom. I wish we could be in the same room together, but we're still keeping socially distant. But I'm looking forward to listening to that play and seeing if it makes people laugh, it makes people smile, seeing how the pacing is going. I think it's going to be pretty good. That's about it. So that's what I'm working on this Wednesday. Oh, you know what? I do have... I sometimes use my Wednesdays to talk about submissions. I already told you that, yes, I wrote a couple pilots and sent them off, so that was a submission news item. But the other submission item that I forgot to mention was that I made this mistake, and so I wanted to ask and see if you've ever done this mistake. I don't think I've done this mistake before. I think this is the first time I've made this mistake. I was sending out a short story to different magazines, and I found like 4 different magazines that I wanted to submit to. All of the magazines accepted electronic submissions, and so I wrote up a nice query letter, attached the story to one place, and sent it off. And then I looked up the next one. It's like, oh, yep, this is another good one. I had copied and pasted the query letter, so I just pasted that in there and sent it off to them again. And then after I hit send, I realized that when I copied and pasted it, I did not change the magazine title. So I submitted to a magazine with the wrong magazine title, and they must have looked at that and just thought, lame. So if you ever make kind of submission mistakes like that, I sent it off again, like right next, like to see if maybe they'll just open this this one and not the other one that has the wrong name, but I have a feeling that there's no way in heck that they're going to publish that story now. So that was my Submissions Misadventure. I hope that you are not having those. If you have any success stories or tales of humiliation, feel free to leave a comment, and I will talk to you soon. Happy writing, everybody. Stay safe, exercise kindness, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, do all the good things that you can. Talk to you soon.